Sounds good.
Okay.
But the representatives is in here.
Right. In case there's any confusion.
Yes, I will.
Representative?
That's Melissa.
Very good. Very good.
I'll say good. All right, I'm on it. Nice part. They're signing up themselves. And one big fire, I place at Agnes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's not good.
Go ahead and come on in and grab a seat.
Surrounding their Florida's. Yeah, they can still help that. Yeah. All right.
I trust everyone was able to get something to drink and had a little snack. Let's give it up a little bit for the mission for. My name is Margaret Steinberg. I'm the chair of the Whitaker Community Council, and we are really blessed to have the mission in Whitaker. They completely changed their mission after COVID. The gal who runs it lived here actually for, I believe, 6 months. And when COVID was done, they restructured the entire program. And people come in, they live, they rebuild their lives. They have a full, beautiful kitchen in the back, a full commercial kitchen where people learn to hospitality jobs, where they learn how to cook. So they have a marketable skill, get out, get their own apartment, and rebuild their lives, which is fantastic. We couldn't ask for a better neighbor. So we're very appreciative. Thank you, Pat. Hello.
This one right here, as well as from there on the corner.
Did everyone catch that? Yeah, so there's restrooms. You can see there's an alternate. There's a women's room, there's a men's room, and then there's a restroom around the corner as well. All right, so we're going to start the September 10th Whitaker Community Council General Meeting. This meeting is actually brought to you by the Public Health and Safety Committee of the Whitaker Community Council. They have been working on this for about 6 months, maybe since a little bit since last year it started, but the meeting itself has taken months to put together. So welcome everyone. We're glad that you're here. We do traditionally have 10 minutes of public comment. Is there anyone in the room that has any public comment that they would like to make that's not in regards to what the meeting is about? Okay, well then we'll just get started. So because the mission does have a special sound system in here, and it's set up specifically to be ADA, so people that are hearing impaired, lots of reasons, there's a whole loop. So we only have 2 microphones. So it's gonna be, okay. Ben told me to act like I was Taylor Swift, so. And I guess if it's too far away, you can't really hear it, but I do tend to be a little loud, so. But we do have a couple of things about the mic system that we want to tell you, in case you do need help hearing. So I'm going to this is Miranda, she's our executive director. She's going to go over that real quick.
Yeah, actually, that would be a thing for Beth, but, right, so bear with us tonight. We have 2 microphones and they are both connected to a hearing loop in our effort to, yes, that.
So if you are familiar with your telephone and hearing group, this space is looped. We're within the beige wire that you can see all the way around the room. So you can go ahead and activate your hearing loop. And it is integrated into the system, so you do need to speak into the top of the microphone, and that feeds directly into the loop while also projecting out into the room.
How's that? Is that good?
That was great. Yeah. Thank you very much. So the Whitaker Community Council Public Health and Safety Committee has been participating in community dialogue regarding the Pacific Coast Intermodal Port project. Its purpose, it proposes to significantly develop some of the infrastructure in our local area, including the train tracks, bridges, construction, increased rail traffic. The project is estimated to bring up to 10 to 12, I guess, double stacked 1 mile long trains through the city of Eugene daily. Now, I want to emphasize that this is an informational meeting. Okay, we're here to ask questions and have people share information. It's sorry. And we're, the nice thing about this and the nice thing about the Public Health and Safety Committee is that we're way out in front of this. This thing has been proposed for quite some time. And we're looking at, from what I understand, 5 to 10 years before anything really happens. There's been no permits filed to build anything. My understanding is that they're not funded 100% yet. So by being here and by saying, hey, we want to have something to say about what's going on, we're getting ahead of the game and getting ahead of saying we care about what happens in our neighborhood and we want to be informed. Rather than being like, what do you mean they're building a 5-story apartment complex? You know, we found out after. So what this does is this puts us out front. So this is the beginning stages, it's planning. And the folks that you see on the panel here have come as far as Coos Bay to come answer some questions, but please just keep in mind that they may not have all of the answers yet. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to just start with introductions, and we're going to start with Lindsay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am Lindsay Leach. I'm your city councilor. I'm here to represent you in this neighborhood and in Franklin and Bethel neighborhoods. And to keep in mind, you know, we are, like Margaret said, we're in the very beginning of this. So we're here to hear you. There's not a whole lot the city of Eugene can do in regards to this project, but I'm here to advocate for you, for your needs, for your desires. And so I am excited that we are having this conversation now, and I look forward to the next couple hours where we're all going to learn more, including me. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm Matt Keating, also a Eugene City Councilor. And when I'm not on council, I serve as Senator James Manning's Chief of Staff in the Oregon Legislature. Senator Manning will be here shortly. He can't stay the entire meeting though, because he has a red-eye flight to catch. But we're going to hear from Senator Manning in a bit. I also want to thank, well, the organizers, the Whitaker Community Council who put this on. Chair Barker, thank you. Thank you for the excellent spread. Thank you to Eugene Mission and everyone who's chipped in and volunteered to the mission, and to you for attending tonight's important conversation. Yes, it may be cart before horse or cart before train, so whatever the idiom you want to use. But it's it's an integral part of learning what the community's needs are as this develops, as this unfolds. I also want to thank our friends in the Western Regional Council of Carpenters for being here. You've been, thank you for being here tonight. You've been dynamite partners. I trust the senator will shout you out when he's here as well. But you've been informative, inspiring, all along this process. More to come. I'm going to pass it to former state representative Patty.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here. It was so wonderful to have a moment to visit with someone very experienced in the Eugene mission. I drove around before we started. I got here a little bit early, and I'm absolutely blown away with the scope and the scale of the project that you have here and the wonderful work that you're doing. So thank you for hosting us. And I want to thank you all for coming. I wear a lot of hats when it comes to this project. I started out as a school board member in Coos Bay for many, many years. I was on the Port Commission for 10 years. I served in the legislature for 8 years. And a lot of what I did in the legislature revolved around transportation and infrastructure. So it comes kind of naturally for me to have a part in this project. Tonight, I represent the private partner, North Point Development, this is a private-public partnership with the Port of Coos Bay. And I'm here tonight to represent the private partner.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Cribbins. I'm the executive director of the project. I spent 10 years as a county commissioner, and I can say I've never been to a meeting with such good food. So thank you all for being such wonderful hosts. We really appreciate it. And I think, as any of us would tell you, we drive to Eugene just for doctor's appointments. So it's not a big thing to have to drive up here for a meeting. Really looking forward to starting this conversation tonight. And it's always a fine balance.
Online has no sound.
In conducting engagements for this Pacific Coast Intermodal Port project, we conducted community conversations last fall that informed the engagement plan that is being put forward to engage the community in the coming months and years around this project that will fully get underway here shortly. My name is Adrienne Vidona. I'm with JLA Public Involvement.
Yeah, I have electrical too.
My name is Francisca Elliott. I'm also with JLA Public Involvement. We're the firm that's supporting community engagement. There are several of you actually in this room that we spoke with last October and November. We had some meetings with folks in the Whitaker Community Council, as well as the Active Bethel Neighborhood Association, and some Eugene City councilors and county commissioners to help inform the recommendations that we made in the community engagement plan. So we haven't plan to be up here, but in the interest of making sure that there's enough seats for community members, we're up here really just to listen to the questions that folks are asking tonight, to document the concerns that folks are raising. A lot of them have been raised in the conversations that we had last year, but we really want to hear where folks are at now with the information that's being presented. So apologies that we're not on the agenda. Like I said, we're not really formally presenters in this process. We're just here to support the meeting.
We can actually just pause for a second while we try to get the online meeting.
Yeah.
Center Manning just popped in. Somewhere.
It's heavily used and it would have been on this, so if we could put it on here.
Yeah, I don't actually know how to detach it without breaking that. I can lower the stand.
My name is Kate Marwitz, and with this meeting, I'm a principal civil engineer on our capital project team. And so really my role tonight is to gather information, just like you, like the council. This is a long way out, but I'm also here to be a resource to answer questions. Primarily around the pipe, so if you have any of those, so wanted to be here. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And not better timing.
What is our?
I'm gonna give the mic to Senator Manning. How are you?
Well, I apologize for being late. I got it's a red eye in the morning going to.
It was, they said the sound
So I just got back from Ireland.
Whoa.
And,
It might just.
yeah, it's
It's a.
if you can ever get any sleep. But first, I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is really an important subject that we talk about. I've been involved with the Coos Bay project for a number of years. And I think that this is an opportunity. And if we do it right, it will be a blessing. But there are a lot of concerns that are out there. What impact is this going to have on our neighborhoods? You know, we're talking about Train Song, and Train Song has been having some experience with the UP for some time. I know had people that were living in that area that moved out of that area because of all of the toxins and stuff that were coming out of the diesels in the yard over there. But some of them UP has done some changes and started using some electrical engines. But I think that the damage is probably already done, and we don't know to the extent that is. And I'm talking about respiratory illness and ailments that may have been a result of this. So I know what the concerns are. If we're bringing in more trains and more freights and stuff, what is that going to? How is that going to impact our communities? You know, Whitaker, and Train Song and surrounding. I think the jury is out, but the concern is real, and it's one that I share with each and every one of you. How do we do this? But then there's an opportunity also for job creation. So we have to balance the health of the residents of Whitaker and Train Song for the long term, and then find out how we can do these things to bring and create more jobs at the same time. I have to tell you, I stand with the people of Whitaker and Train Song. I've been with you since I started on this legislative journey. At first, I was your police commissioner, and then I became your E-Web commissioner, and then I became your state senator. I will always keep your needs above my own, and I'll stand up and I'll fight for you. But I think that you have a great panel here that's going to help put some of those questions to bed, or if not, it's going to spark more. More is always good. But then at the end of the day, we want to seek solutions, something that's going to make sure that we're taking care of our people, our communities, and make sure that our children are growing up in a safe, secure environment, free from all types of toxins, things like that, and the congestion that could come out of it. So I think there might be a pathway to get this thing done. So I'm not going to continue on, as I said, and hopefully that you excuse me, I would love to come back, and I have to come back and speak specifically to Whitaker and Train Song about other issues that you have. But I've got a 3 o'clock wake up in the morning, and I haven't been to sleep in almost 2 days. So I'm kind of zombified. That's a word, you know, I can use that. But you have a great panel out here. I see some amazing speakers up here that's going to have a lot of answers and stuff. Always good to see you. And I want to say, God bless you all. And remember, I will go back for you, and you know that. I will fight to the end of time to make sure that I represent you and your dreams and your wishes, because I represent your values, because your values are mine, and your families are my family. We're in this thing together. So we come up with a solution, but we have to be open-minded as well. But we have to be stern, not compromising our values. So with that, I'm going to try to get some sleep so I can get up with these red eyes. You know, I just got back from Florida and I'm trying to get I got to do this little plug out there real quick. They don't have American wine over there.
How much gas did you have?
Fix that.
Well, no, it wasn't the Guinness, it was the Jamesons. So I had approached the Minister of Economics and Commerce, and I asked, do we have Oregon wines here, American wines? Well, they have European wines, they have French wines, Italian wines, all those other. And I thought about it. Their industry over there is high tech. You know, Google is over there and they're doing all these amazing things. And college is free. Imagine that. Healthcare is free. Imagine that. What kind of society does things like that? So I'm going to be talking to our wine industry and find out if there is a taste or an opportunity to create some dialogue where we can import Oregon wines to Ireland. And Ireland is the gateway to the EU, which means that we can get our wines, not just in Ireland, but even over to France and Italy and places like that. So I'm always out thinking about how I can help try to stir on economic impact and create jobs here at home. So that's one of the things I was doing. And with that, I'm going to bow out and go get some sleep because now I'm starting to rant. And, you know, so thank you all.
Thank you very much, Senator Manning. Well said. Real quick, there are a couple of vehicles parked in emergency services in front of the main office. A gray Nissan Leaf with license plate 690LEF. There's also a green Chevy S10, license number WPD 279. If you could please move your vehicles, that would be great. Thank you very much. Can everyone see online now? Is it better? I'll take that as a yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I trust that everyone has had a look at the. We're going to run the meeting a little bit differently than what we normally do. We have a lot of people that are going to have a lot of questions. So we're going to start out with presentations from the panel. We're going to hear some information about from the people that came from Coos Bay, as well as Katie Marwitz, who came to talk about the quiet zone. We do have some questions that were previously submitted to the WCC through email and through research. We sent an email out and a post to please email us your questions that you have. So we have taken some of those that would have been duplicate. We're very proud. Stephen Fuller is a member of the Health and Safety Committee. He is not on the board, but we encourage people that live, work, own property in the Whitaker to please come and join any committee. And so Stephen is going to go over those questions, and then we're going to take questions from people online and that are in the room. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna put people in the queue. We're gonna put your name up there. Everyone, please have patience. You'll have 1 minute or less to ask your questions. Remember, it's a question, not a statement per se. You can either direct it at a specific person, or you can say, I'd like to ask the people that are from Coos Bay, whoever would be more relevant to answer this. Ask your question, they'll answer, and if you have a comment that you'd like to make after it, you have 1 minute or less to do that. We have a lot of people that are gonna have a lot of questions. So we wanna make sure that we get through that and get as many people as we possibly can. And remember, we're here for information. So that's, you know, there's some questions that just are not gonna be able to be answered because we don't know yet. That being said, I'm gonna hand the meeting over to Melissa Cribbins. And she's going to give us a presentation from the Pacific Coast Intermodal Port project.
But first, we're gonna see if I can do the technology for you. Wow. Let's see, so we're going to, this is set for you, so you can, but I could ask you here. I will stand unless I'm blocking the presentation for you guys to be if I was over there. Okay, thank you. And we'll switch speakers occasionally so you don't get tired of hearing me go on. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Melissa Cribbins. I'm the executive director of the PCIP project. I work directly for the Port of Coos Bay. And I will go ahead and cover this part. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to share information about the project. We're trying to provide some context about where we are today and what the steps are ahead. We want to hear from you and we want to answer your questions. I can't say enough that this is the beginning of a conversation and not the end of one. I hope to see you all many, many more times, but if I don't see you, I hope that will be because your questions and concerns have been answered. As I mentioned, I was an elected official for 10 years. I've been in a lot of public meetings. I believe in public process and really want people to leave this meeting tonight either feeling like their questions were answered or that they were heard and we understand their concerns or that your answers are forthcoming. So thank you very much for all making the time to be here tonight. The other thing I've always said is there is never a good time for a public meeting. Everyone always has other things they could be doing, and we appreciate you prioritizing this and being here tonight. What we've heard so far, Adrian and Francisca have both been up here and they've had some conversations, very preliminary ones, just about concerns that the neighborhoods might have. We've heard that there's concerns about impacts to Eugene and nearby neighborhoods from increased train traffic, potential noise and emissions. I'm sorry, fruit fly just got me right there. I will try not to jerk like that in the future. We've gotten questions about what will be transported, how often, and at what times those trains will run, as well as questions about financial impacts, including the burden to taxpayers and local benefits from this project. I'm sure we will hear other questions tonight. I brought my notepad. I think we all did. We're ready to hear them. The project team that's here tonight is me, Kathy McEwen, and Matt Friesen from the Port of Coos Bay. Keith Levitt wasn't able to make it. He's the Chief Commercial Officer on the project. Matt, is that still me? Okay. So before I came on board, I've been on board for about a year, but the Port of Coos Bay signed a partnership agreement with North Point Development from Kansas City, Missouri, to develop and operate the Pacific Coast Intermodal Port project. In 2024, the port was awarded significant federal grants, including CRISI and Infra, one for terminal planning, one for rail improvement planning, and then as well as a rail crossing elimination grant for the city of Reedsport Rail Crossing for planning, design, and permitting, which bolsters funding that was already received from the state for this project, also for design and permitting. As of 2025, we're still in early stages and the design phase has not yet begun. The project timeline, which JLA was nice enough to update for me, shows we are here. So we are really at the beginning of this project. And the design development is just now beginning. We expect to have RFPs out for design about the middle of next month, which means that all of the engineers in the United States will quit calling me because they all call me right now to see when the RFPs are coming out. At the end of this year, we hope to have 30% design plans. And that is really what will go ahead and trigger the NEPA process, which is what most of us are really familiar with. I think probably most people in this room have experienced a NEPA process in some way, understood that that's what public meetings are about, just determining what impacts to the environment a project will cause. And throughout this process, we are doing community engagement, and we are also doing the required environmental and socioeconomic impact analysis. This is Matt.
Cool, yeah. Just give you a little bit of a background on the port. The Port of Coos Bay is hasn't been down there in a while. It is one of 23 ports in Oregon. There are only a few that are considered deep draft ports, which are designed for development that are actually naturally occurring deep draft ports. So the Port of Coos Bay is one of those. And we have basically we think of it as three main areas of operation that we do at the port. We have the Charleston Marina, which is home to the third largest commercial fishing fleet in the state. They do mostly crab there, but they have about 400 slips that operate out of Charleston. We've also got some charter fishing there and recreational slips there as well, boat launches. And there is also a shipbuilding area over there where some of the ships actually, like from the Deadliest Catch, if you saw those, actually got worked on over there. So we have a marina and a shipyard, and then we have the Coos Bay Rail Line, which is one of the few non-for-profit railroads. The short line railroad, one of, I think, about 33 short lines in the state. And the port has owned and operated that for about the last 15 years that we took it on. It's a 100-year-old railroad. It's 134 miles of track from Coquille all the way to Eugene here, where it goes into the Union Pacific Rail Yard. It has 121 water crossings, so it follows the water because it's flat, and as a result, it's got a lot of water crossings. So it has, it definitely has its age, but it's got a lot of pluck, and we put a lot of work into getting that into a better condition as well. Once we took it over and got it running in 2009, 2010. So we have the Coos Bay Rail Line that has 10 customers right now currently, and it's mostly forest products because it was really working in the industry there. The timber industry there is the big driver of the region. So we have the Coos Bay Rail Line, we have the Charleston Marina, and then we also have marine work that we do. We have 6 private terminals that are in the 15 miles of channel that is the entire Coos Bay channel. So when we talk about Coos Bay and like the Federal Marine Channel, that's just 15 river miles long in total, and it's federally maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers currently, and the port is what they call the state sponsor of that channel. So those are kind of the 3 things that we do. We maintain. We work with the marine traffic, and those are all private terminals, and then we do the Coos Bay Rail Line, and then we have the Charleston Marina. So the actual project, how this came about, is not really a new idea. The PCIP, as we call it, the Pacific Coast Intermodal Port Project. It came about really, I think 2004, 2005 is when the idea was started. And however, because of the financial crisis, there's a bunch of shipping companies that were doing the project at the time. And they ran into issues during the financial crisis, so they did not continue the project. But this idea of a ship-to-rail container terminal project has been going for a long time because people have seen the opportunity there with the channel. So, the channel modification work though continued to be developed, even though the original project did not continue. So if you hear about it a little bit, we'll talk about the three legs of the stool. It's kind of the common way that we talk about the project, because there's three different parts of the project. I know there's a lot of numbers and a lot of different components here, but hopefully it'll start to kind of make sense. But the three legs of the stool, the channel modification is the farthest along in that process in the design, because of the fact that it did start so much earlier, going back to about 2005. All right, so if you just look at the slide here, you see a little bit of the opportunities. It's called a gateway port. It's the only inland freight exclusive gateway on the US West Coast. A gateway port, they call it that because basically all of the materials will come straight off the rail. The train will get straight to rail and go straight to the Midwest. So it is a gateway port. The customers are not necessarily going to be going locally here. They're all going right off the boat, right through, and so it's a gateway port. State of the art, electrified, clean energy. Let's see. Okay, next slide. Okay, so why Coos Bay? Why did this project kind of come together? We talked about the background a little bit. It's the largest deep draft port in between Seattle and San Francisco. So it's also only 6 miles from open ocean, and it's connected to the Class 1 National Rail line. So those are kind of the three biggest advantages when COVID started occurring and the project came back up as we started to see issues in the supply chain. Okay, slide. What would the advantage be? The biggest, I think, that we often talk about are jobs. So this would be a catalytic opportunity for jobs in the region. We really have, going back to the timber industry, and when Coos Bay was a bustling town, at one point we had 350 ship of calls, vessels coming through every year, and that's gone down to 70 now. So it has been a struggling area. The county has been struggling with its revenues. Currently, the local hospital is struggling, and one of the biggest opportunities and the real engines that this does have is the opportunity to completely transform the economic opportunity in the region and all essentially along the rail line. County is here as well, and County is kind of, along with all of her service that she's done in school board and being a port commissioner, she's a bit of a historian. And County, I don't know if you have any color you'd like to add at any point along the way, but this might be a good spot for you.
Thank you, Matt. Historian just means I'm long of tooth. I've been around a long time. I think one of the things to note with this, can we go back to slide?
Yeah, I can do it.
Is the historical precedence. When I graduated high school, I married my prom date, had a major anniversary recently. We had 2,000 kids in our high school. Those of you who grew up here may remember Marshfield as kind of a powerhouse. And we traveled up here to do a lot of athletic events. You guys came to Coos Bay once. We came up here every week. And we were very pleased to be doing that. When I was on the school board, and my kids graduated high school, there were 1,200 kids. Now there's 700 kids at Marshfield High School. And I had the dubious job when I was on the school board. We started with 13 elementary schools when I joined the school board. When I left in 2005, we had I closed 11 schools. And that's just an indication of what happened when the timber industry changed and those beautiful family wage jobs in our mills left. And we are a hollowed out community right now. We're not healthy. We skew elderly, which isn't such a bad thing, but our families are gone. And you can see that in what happened to our schools. And when you go from 350 ships a year, which is a wonderful business, down to between 50 and 70, we significantly, we have capacity. One of the things I don't think people realize that haven't been around is we have the capacity to increase shipping. And what would this look like? And this is one thing that I'm particularly interested in making sure that we do properly, that we do well, that we work with our communities as we're moving this forward. But this will create during construction about 2,600 jobs. And that will go on for about 3 years plus to get it built, the terminal built, get the wharfs built, rehabilitate and rebuild the rail line, and then get the channel dredged 8 feet. But the new opportunities for the future are a lot more than that. We're looking at probably 1,500 to 2,000 jobs in Coos County, which doesn't get us back to what we had, but it gets us back partway with well-paying union jobs that can do a wonderful job of bringing kids back into our schools. I laughed at the superintendent the other day. We just reconfigured all of our schools in Coos Bay. We're down to 2 elementary campuses, a junior high and a high school, because we shrunk so much. I said, get ready, buddy. You're going to have to start growing again if we're successful. So start planning about where you're going to put kids. And he laughed. We're looking at 7,000 indirect jobs at the end of the day when this happens, because with this will come other types of businesses will follow. About 1/3 of those will be in Coos County. About 2/3 of those will be up here. So I think for you all who have an interest in this, begin to think about what that will look like when we're bringing in a number of not only well-paying union jobs, but also the secondary and tertiary jobs that will follow because of the business that we will create. One of the things that's important for us, as Matt said, we're 6 miles from open ocean, and we are farther west than the other ports on the West Coast. So we have a tremendous steaming time advantage. Ships don't have to stay on the water as long because they get to berth quicker for Coos Bay. So that's another thing that makes us attractive. But I wanted to make sure we noted that. The plan is to move about 800,000 containers a year. They're measured in 20-foot units. So it's about 1.2 million a year. And that would be with 2 berths, three ships a week, maybe, that will bring traffic through here. And one of the things that is of the community benefits that's, I think, is important, and this is all going to get clearer as we move along and the engineering and design work becomes further along. But when you put that many people to work, of course, you're increasing the tax base in the state with people paying income taxes because they have good jobs. Insurance is important in our community. Health insurance is a problem. We have a lot of people on Medicare and Medicaid, and our hospital is at serious risk right now. We'll create an opportunity for people to have good insurance, up those numbers to make our healthcare more stable in our community, and I hope for years too. But you'll also have property tax increases for your city and your county and all of the taxing districts around that benefit from more people being in the community. So those are things that I just wanted to make note of. Oh, you want more history? Sure. I'm going to do this one really quick. The Port of Coos Bay has been operational since the 1800s. You know, the first commission that was established in the state of Oregon was the Board of Maritime Pilots, the pilots that bring the ships in. Before statehood, we had a Board of Maritime Pilots. That's how old the maritime industry is and why it's important. The channel has already been modified about 10 times. The first dredging was done around 1910. And the plan is to do one more modification to the channel. It will go 8 feet deeper than it is right now. And it's been done a number of times before. This will be one more modification to the channel.
Just about, well, one thing with this, I'll make sure to mention, then pass it to Melissa here. This is our charge. The ports have in statute. Our our mission to do economic development. And just as we always want to be sure to remind folks that we're doing this because, you know, it's important, and it's important for the community and it's important for the state. And this is actually a project of national significance, but it is really fulfilling a requirement and a obligation that's in state statute. So just a reminder that we have most of our presentations to continue this good work along. And here is that three leg of the stool example, and how Melissa talk about the different components and how they all fit together as connected actions.
So when we talk about connected actions, that tends to be a NEPA term, National Environmental Policy Act. This project will be considered as a whole when it's permitted for NEPA, not as separate parts. And I will start with a discussion about the channel modification. It calls for the channel to be widened to 450 feet. And there will be a turning basin at River Mile 5 and River Mile 8. The dredge spoil site is Site L. And the channel will be deepened to 45 feet. So this is just a good visual for what the modification looks like. It's at about 95% design right now. It's by far the farthest along on the design and permitting for the project.
Where would the railroad be in relation to that?
You'll be able to see it in a minute. I have more maps. The new container terminal. This project obviously calls for a new container terminal and rail yard design. It would be a state-of-the-art intermodal terminal on 175 acres located on the north spit of Coos Bay, which is on the north side of Coos Bay before you cross the bridge to go into North Bend. I discovered when I was a county commissioner, often if I said Coos County, nobody had any idea where it is. We all seem to remember by landmarks. So, it's a 2-berth facility, which will serve up to 12,000 to 14,000 TEU container capacity vehicles. And the bathtub berths will be dredged to -15 mean lower and low water. The terminal design is meant to follow green operating principles. The ships will be cold ironed, and the rail yard will consist of 7,500 feet of arrival and departure track, 8,300 feet of runaround track, 46,600 feet of storage track, and 35,700 feet of working track. And again, this part of the project is at less than 10% design right now. The RFPs that will go out in the middle of next month, one of them will be to design the terminal project, one will be to design the rail, and another one will be to design the rail crossing elimination in Reedsport. So rail yard considerations that we've been looking at: sand removal and beneficial use, the fill and cut plans. We may need a retaining wall for dune protection because the dune already moves across Trans-Pacific Parkway, which is the road that goes right down to the site. There are wetlands out there, which will need to have the impacts mitigated for. Sufficient electrical power is available. That's a Pacific Power site. Stormwater management, of course. And this is actually a historical shooting area. People drive out the Trans-Pacific Parkway and shoot right into the dune. So there may be lead that has to be mitigated from that site, believe it or not.
Decades.
Yes.
Oh, you were there in high school.
The third part is the rail improvements. As I think Kathy and Matt both mentioned, the Coos Bay Rail Line is an existing rail line opened in 1916, wholly owned by the Port of Coos Bay in 2009, which provides connection to Union Pacific in Eugene. The North Spit branch terminates a quarter mile from the proposed terminal. We will have to extend that branch, obviously, out to the terminal site. Kathy, do you want to talk about the port acquiring?
Sure. This line opened in 1916 and it was designed to haul coal. A lot of people don't know we have vast coal reserves in Coos County, and we mined it and we shipped it for a lot of years to San Francisco and Portland. And when that industry changed, it was a passenger rail for a long time, and it moved a lot of wood products. So primarily wood products and coal, then wood products. Our last passenger train left in 1951. And it hasn't been a passenger rail since that time. It's been just a commercial freight rail. In 2007, you may recall when the economy was really struggling, Corp was the operator of this rail line, and it was owned by Rail America. Rail America was owned by a hedge fund called Fortress. And I was on the Port Commission at the time, and we got 1 day's notice that they were abandoning the rail line. Legally, they have to give you 120 days notice. It stranded all our shippers. Cars couldn't move. They just upped and left. And what they were going to do, because they needed cash desperately, they were going to rip up the track and sell it to, sell the scrap steel to China for $13 million. That was unfortunate. And it created quite a stir. And as a port commissioner, one of the things I did not sign on for when I was sworn in by Governor Kulingoski was to be a rail operator. But we found ourselves in an interesting position, and over a couple of years, with the help of our congressional delegation, Senator Wyden, Senator Smith, and Congressman DeFazio, and the city of Eugene, the cities of Florence, Reedsport, Lakeside, Coos Bay, Lane Douglas, and Coos County, all of our local businesses. We had a remarkable show of support, and we requested of the Surface Transportation Board that they force Rail America to sell the line to the Port of Coos Bay as the most logical public entity, because we can't have a port without a rail line. And so we were successful in that ruling coming down in 2009. The Surface Transportation Board determined that the cost of the rail was $13 million, because that's what the scrap steel was worth. So we had to figure out how to come up with $13 million, which was a challenge, but we were able to do that, and we purchased the line at that time. And that is why it became wholly owned as a public rail line with the Port of Coos Bay at that time. It took us 4 years to do enough rehabilitation to get it open and operating again, so it was down for some time. You all may remember when it wasn't operating. It reopened in 2011, I believe, and has been operating ever since, moving product on the line. So it was a labor of love, not just for our community, but really for the whole state, to make sure that this asset wasn't lost. The rail improvements, all the track will be redone. It will be new ballast, new ties, welded rail. There's a lot, I think Matt said 120 water crossings, plus all those will be redone, rebuilt, or replaced. We have steel bridges that will need to be redone across our rivers in Florence and Coos Bay and Reedsport and others. There will be 7 sidings that will, if they're existing sidings, they'll increase in length, or we'll have to add some. Grade separations are important, and I know those are a topic of conversation for you all. You've heard us talk about one in Reedsport that we're already working to find funding for. But Green Hill, Veneta, there are other places where grade separations will be discussed. Quiet zones, of course, are something that's on everyone's minds. And I know for you all up here, you have been involved in quiet zones for a while. You know a lot about that. This is a conversations that will need to continue. It's going to take 3 years, to make sure all of that gets done. Here's the tunnels are listed on here. You can see there are 9 of them. Some of them need more work than others, but those will all have to accommodate double stack cars. And there's a lot of detail that will go in. Here's a trestle, beautiful trestle, beautiful photograph. Thank you, Jessica. And I'm going to let Melissa talk about permitting. Okay.
And we are in the wrapping up phase right now.
Yep.
So we have a strike force team that meets, that was convened by the last administration. It's actually continued through this administration, which contains federal, state, and local agencies, as well as representatives from your legislators that attend to every month just to see where we're at with the project, raise questions and concerns that they've heard, and keep things moving forward. There's been permit applications submitted on the channel modification only. We have interest from major Asian ocean carriers for the commercial side of this, and ongoing, says collaboration is probably a good term. We've been giving updates to Union Pacific on where we're at with the project. As far as funding and financing goes, we've received 54 million in federal grant applications, approved for infra and Chrissy for planning and permitting, and of course the Reedsport RCE. These are all planning and permitting grants. And we received 100 million in state bonds in the last legislative session for channel construction. And then this is, I believe, my last, well, pretty much my last slide. I'll leave this one up in case anyone wants to scan the QR code. And next steps and how to get involved. We do have an email newsletter that comes out that gives updates. You can also sign up for any other information you're interested in. And then my next slide just says questions. We can share out these slides too afterwards if you'd like, and we're all done. Thank
And
you.
we'll do the questions after.
Yes.
And thank you very much. For those of you that saw the post regarding this meeting that are on the WCC email list, we did send everyone a link that they could go and sign up for the email for the Pacific Coast Intermodal Port. So you get newsletters. I mean, sometimes you'll get a lot. So they do keep active communication open, which is great. Okay, we're running a little bit behind. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to ask Katie Marwitz to come, and she's going to talk a little bit about the quiet zone. Who would like to know about the quiet zone?
Yeah. Well, I would be happy to help us catch up on time, speak briefly, but I'm really excited for the potential partnership and coordination here of saying, hey, let's talk about the quiet zone, because we've been doing a tremendous amount of work around the quiet zone. And some of you will remember historically, let's see, like early 2000s when we first started talking about this. And it's gone in waves, ups and downs. And then most recently, I say recently, 2017, 2018 is when I became involved in the project. We do have 10 crossings throughout downtown that we're working on. It's been a very, very slow and hard process. I was trying to think of analogies to talk about it that are appropriate for a work group, appropriate for a professional setting. And I decided really what it's like is like pushing a carpet uphill. Is the one that I decided, was not inappropriate. So we're working really closely with our state partners. So really that's ODOT Rail, ODOT Safety and Rail, and also with Union Pacific. So those are kind of parallel tracks. We have a crossing order from ODOT State Rail. What that is, it basically says, hey, by statute, by law, you now have the permit to go and do this work. So we have that for all 10 of the crossings. We lump them together in one crossing order. The challenge is we also still have to get buy-in from Union Pacific to be able to make that work going forward. We're really struggling with that. I would say in the last, it's September, so 9, 10, in the last like 10 or so months, we've actually had the most positive communications with Union Pacific that we've had in multiple years. So I am cautiously optimistic, I would say, that we're going to start making some progress again, because where we are at this moment is that we have the crossing order, but the crossing order is actually getting ready to expire. So we are working with ODOT of potentially amending that crossing order, given our progress with Union Pacific. So given the unknown timing of the approvals from Union Pacific, I don't have a realistic timing. The designs from the city side are done. We were able to move really quickly. If magically one day they said, hey, you're right, this is a great project. We know you want to make safety improvements at all these crossings. Here's your permit. We would say, okay, we can be in action really quickly. I'm happy to be done if that's my own. So we are really actively working on it. I know it's been a long process. It's been really frustrating. I can tell you city staff are working on this really continuously. So it's not something that we have put to the back burner. I think it'd be something where, okay, we haven't heard anything for a while, let's move on to something else, but we know that it's important. The safety improvements we're planning at all 10 of those crossings are really vital to the community.
Those 10 crossings include the ones on the side of town and north of here.
It goes the farthest west of Van Buren. Is part of the fight zone, so, yeah, Van Buren's included, and then going east from there, north from there.
So we'll get to questions in just a minute here. Okay, so write them down so you don't forget.
Be kind.
Yes, be kind, please. Yeah, that is.
So really, I'm happy to provide that update, and I certainly hear from a number of people from your neighborhood and other businesses, other communities around town saying, hey, when is this going to happen? Right? I just heard a train outside. How appropriate for this timing. But we are continuing to work on it. I'm always happy to answer questions. Unfortunately, a lot of the updates right now, people email or call and say, hey, what's the update? I will give you an honest update. But currently, the update really is, there's not really an update. We're working really hard. We are continuing to push with it. We're not looking at other avenues of how can we make this happen, right? How can we kind of merge these two processes where we're working really closely with the state and struggling with that relationship with Union Pacific. So just want to let you know, it's still a priority. I have staff assigned to this that are working on it a good portion of their time. And it's really important. We want to get it done. But I am really excited about the opportunity to have some collaboration there because we've put in a lot of groundwork already.
Thank you very much.
I can provide it, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much. We know that wasn't easy. Who's the toughest crowd in UG? We know it's the Whitaker. Just a couple things that I kind of left out. Number one, just to concur with what was just stated by Katie. For 6 months, between myself and 2 other people, we have reached out to Union Pacific through telephone, email. I actually Googled Union Pacific and found the CEO. His phone number was online, and I called him. He was sitting down to dinner. I don't know where he was. He was in some state. He had no idea what I was talking about. I just said, hey, we need you guys to show up. We need to know what's going on. And he's like, who is this? How did you get my number? So just for the record, we have worked and worked and worked to try to bring them to the table. And it is not, it's not an easy thing. As a matter of fact, the first time that they responded was just yesterday to Janet, just so everyone knows. Great job, Janet. And we appreciate that, and we hope that will open up more.
We can post our email right up there.
Actually, how about if we post it on our, we'll put it on our page and we'll share it for everyone. All right? Yes, please. And secondly, and I'm sorry, I believe that we have a couple of representatives from Val Hoyle's office here. Is that correct? Can you just stand up? And I'm so sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. She works pretty well, so we're happy to be here. I'm Carmen Moore, Congresswoman plus Chief of Staff.
And Elizabeth Wilson, Secretary Driver.
So you guys, thank you so much for coming. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go to the Q&A portion. Like I said, we did send out a message asking for people to submit questions, as well as the Health and Safety Committee has done a lot of work. I mean, a lot. So Stephen Fuller is going to take the mic in a moment. He's going to ask a series of questions that represents the Health and Safety Committee. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up the room. And then, like I said, we're going to do it a minute or less for a question. Please, who you ask. If you have an agenda in front of you, you can see everyone's name is listed on there. I'm sorry that we can't really see their name tags. Or if you just want to ask the people from the port in general a question, they'll know who can answer it best. They'll answer it, and if you want to respond, you have 1 minute. We're going to do a timer. We really want to get as many questions in as possible. and we want to address everyone's concerns. So I'm gonna hand the mic over right now. This is Stephen Fuller. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for coming to the meeting. The first question from the committee that we had 6 questions that we put together. The first one is the $64,000 question, and I'm not sure who was in the position to answer it. The question: what MOUs does PCID have with railroad companies, ocean shipping lines, and other possible stakeholders to confirm that the CPIC is actually moving by the transportation industry, by railroad companies and ocean shipping lines and others?
Melissa, that would be you, right?
Yes, I didn't know if we were gonna get all 6 at once or.
No, just. Oh, that was one question.
Yes, I'm happy to answer. We don't have any formal MOUs in place, but we have been having conversations. It's the whole chicken and egg issue. You know, prove to us that you're gonna build it, we will give you our MOUs. We've been going back and forth. Did you? Yeah, I was checking Patty to see if she had anything to add on behalf of the private partner. Good.
I think it's important to note that until you have a permit in hand, pretty tough to get an MOU signed. We have to know that we actually can build this. So we have some time that we have to go through the NEPA process, do the EIS, get state and federal permits in here, and that's the time when that stuff will all begin to happen. But I can tell you for about the last 2 years, we have had a team of folks, including a lot of state legislators, who have traveled to Asia, multiple countries, and had lots of very fruitful conversations with ocean carriers who are very interested in us, primarily because it's predictable and cyclical that we hit capacity on the West Coast on a very regular basis. When we do, and ships can't get to berth, and they're waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 days, weeks, that's really tough on the economy. And there's a lot of interest at the state and federal level that we can actually put a new lane on the freeway and level that out and solve that problem, which is part of the reason we're so attractive and why ocean carriers are very interested.
Thank you. Second question is, it's probably a question for Katie from the city, and the challenge of communicating with Union Pacific. Does it help the negotiation of the Union Pacific to have PCID in our corner, or does it slow things down?
I actually think that it could be an exciting partnership because of the conversations they've had and the power kind of leverage behind their process. I would view it as a really potential positive partnership. Obviously, we have not started that coordination yet. So I'll say that's really the power of yet. But I would see it as positive because I just think there's benefits both ways because we have some shared interests there. So we just haven't dove into those conversations yet, but I see it as a positive.
Thank you. The third question is, where will the long eastbound trains be built? Will they be built in Coos Bay in the new rail terminal? Will they be built in the Eugene Yard? Will they be built in the Middlesbrough facility from the north?
Some of that is yet to be determined. And there are a number of things, since the design and engineering really for the terminal and for the rail is around 10–15%. There's a long way to go. So I'm not sure. The way I understand it, these trains will be built down in the Coos Bay terminal yard. There's a long stretch of track from the terminal site until we actually connect with what used to be Corp and is now the CBRL. It's a spur. It's about a 5-mile long spur. And those trains will be built there, come up to Eugene, and a lot of them will go on through.
Yeah.
Now, there's a possibility for the Mid-Willamette Valley site. We don't know yet what's going to happen with the Mid-Willamette Valley reload site. Honestly, the UP will determine a lot of that as to where, if they want to take agricultural products, for example, coming from the Midwest or the Northwest or from California. There's a lot of ag producers who are very interested in our project. They want to export through our port. And we've had a tremendous amount of support from California, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and brokers in the Midwest. So it's incoming traffic, but it's also traffic going the other way. So where they will actually be built, primarily the containers will come off the ship, they'll go into the yard, they'll put a train together, and the train will head up. Most of these are going to go to the north. But I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen because we're not quite sure what's going to happen with the Mid-Valley reload yet. Yeah, that's about where we are.
Thank you. Which railroad operator will actually build the trains? And will the class one operator be the one that builds the trains and gets the trains to the class one network?
I don't think, well, I think it's fair to say, having been on the Port Commission when we purchased it, that the port hired an operator to get the line open early on in 2011, because we didn't have staff that knows how to run a rail line. So we brought in ARG Trans and they ran it for a few years. What we found at that time is they have to make a profit. The port doesn't have to make a profit. So it became a more positive situation for the port then to bring in a lot of their staff and operate it out of the port, because it is a public entity which served better. Now, when you're building a facility of this magnitude, I think it's fair to say that there will be an operator that will come in and operate the rail line, but I can't predict what that looks like right now. We don't even have the engineering and design work done. And so I think those are things that are all going to be determined in the future.
Yeah, so the question is a little bit premature.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
Question number 6. Number 5. Number 5. Yeah. Senator Manning talked about the importance of exports and talked about Oregon wine. What backhaul freight do you anticipate beside agricultural products that you mentioned? What freight might be going on the return trip back to Coast Bay? Will there also be materials used in Coos Bay and North Bend?
I think you can see my eyes light up when you talk about backhaul, because the original impetus for the idea of adding this proverbial track on the freeway, lane on the freeway, to increase capacity on the West Coast was for incoming cargo. It's for all the things you buy at Walmart and the things you order online and the shoes you purchase and the eyeglasses frames that you purchase and all of those things. But I'm an old ag major from Oregon State. I've been on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee a long time, and I immediately got excited about agricultural products. Now, it has to go into a box. We're not going to be moving bulk cargo. So the wheat will still go out of Portland, that kind of thing. But we can compressed hay goes out in containers out of the Willamette Valley right now. All of the grass seed that we grow, a lot of it, and a lot of the specialty seed that we grow in Oregon that we're so proud of, with our beautiful pinning system in the Willamette Valley, those things could export out. One thing that has become really important in conversations with our Asian ocean carriers is they need a port that has dedicated space for refrigerated products that they can move, that either are frozen or that are refrigerated. And so that's a topic of conversation. Again, these are all concepts right now, but there's a lot of conversation about that. Anything we can manufacture in this country, we can ship to Asia through our port. So I think you can use your imagination. It could be anything from chips to soybeans. I mean, it could be anything that Asia wants from us. So this is going to open a really nice opportunity for not only a gateway coming in, but for our manufactured and grown products to go out. So we're pretty excited about that concept. And we have, I will tell you, there was a bill that passed in the, oh gosh, it was the 24 session. What did we, 24? Yeah. That impacted our project. And one of the things we negotiated into it that we were perfectly excited were there will be no fossil fuel moved in containers through this line. We're not going to move fossil fuels through Grace Bay. And I want you to know that. The other thing I want you to know is we worked very closely with our tribes when we were working on some land use issues that were really important, not only to them, but to us. And there were a number of amendments to this bill that impacted things that they cared about as well. And we've been in conversations with our 2 local tribes for 5 years on this project, CT Clusie, the Confederated Tribes, and the Coquel, and there are other tribes now that are interested in conversations as well, as it might impact them. So I had forgotten to say that at the beginning, but those conversations have been going on for a while.
Great, so you have one more question?
I just have one follow-up question before I get to the last question. Quick follow-up question. So that might include wood pellets, is that right?
And if they go in a container, absolutely. Now, should I tell them there's I'm not sure if you're aware, on the port of Coast Bay, if you've been down there in the last few months and you drive along the waterfront just north of where the Coquel Casino is, there's a very large gray building that has just been under construction and is almost now complete. That is designed to export wood pellets. So to containerize them is probably not as cost effective as to move them out of that containment facility and load into the hold of a ship. I suspect that's going to be bulk product and not going out in containers.
Great, okay, thank you. The last question is the impact on Eugene. How will you deal with the bicycle, pedestrian, and vehicle traffic that is impacted by the trails when all 9 grade crossings on the main line through the center of the city may be blocked for 1 mile southeast of the Coast Bay Junction? This will include disruption of emergency service, additional air pollution, health impacts on adjacent neighborhoods, and increased risk to unhoused people along the tracks. So specific impacts of the 9 or 10 grade crossings being back.
I wish I could have a specific answer for you. A lot of the conversation, well, what's happening right now, as Melissa said, the request for proposal for the design and engineering of a rail line are going out within the next month or so. Excuse me. Once those engineering and design companies are on board, which they will be by the end of the year, they will begin to struggle with those issues. And there will be a number of them. It's like, you know, we have to fix the tunnels, we have to fix the trestles, we have to fix the water crossings. We have to beef up the rail lines to make it safe. All of those safety concerns and grade separations and grade crossings are going to be part of that engineering and design work. And there is talk of separations in the West Eugene area. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like until the engineers starting to get their work done, which will take a significant amount of time. But I do want you to know it is something that this project this is going to happen along the line in other places too. And these are things that we're going to have to deal with, and that the engineers and the designers will be coming up with the ideas that I'm not an engineer. I can't answer an engineering question, but these are things that are part of this conversation that has started quite some time ago.
Great, thank you. Now's the time for me to drop my money.
All right, thank you, Stephen. All right, Jen, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're gonna do at this point is, we're gonna go ahead and take questions in the room, questions online. So if anyone online has a question, please raise your hand, put it in the chat. We're gonna put people's names in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're gonna go in order of the people that are in the queue. And I'm gonna come up, hold the mic, let you ask your question. We're gonna wait for an answer. If you have a reply, You have a minute on each end. Because like I said, we only have 2 microphones, unfortunately. So, Derek back there is the vice chair of the WCC. Who has a question in the room?
So we got 1, 2, 3. And then.
Well, I, like I said before, I need their, Derek's gonna go
Do
get
that. So blue shirt, if you would like to be the first person to ever ask the question. And then we'll follow with an online line.
That's correct. No, I'm not, no, I'm not.
Okay, then.
That's supposed to be keeping us calm.
Okay, my name is Rob. So I'm interested in your collaboration ongoing with UP about the yard. And as far as I know, the yard is now being run by those people that you guys fired, a class 3 railroad. And it's not UP, it's running the yard anymore, or very soon to be. So I don't know why you're even working with UP for the yard and 3G. They're gonna be, this class 3 thing is gonna be doing it.
A couple of things.
That is the
Okay.
question.
Do you know who it was?
Anybody, I don't know who you all are.
Kathy's gonna take that one.
A couple of things, and I want to make sure that this is really clear. When the Port of Coos Bay was asked to acquire the rail line from Cork, it was owned by Rail America and a hedge fund. That's no longer the case. That Corp is now owned by, it was Genesee, Wyoming, and 2 other companies, 1 other company. It's a whole different operation now. So Corp's got a bit of a hangover with their name for a lot of folks in my neck of the woods, but it is a different operation now. I think it's also important to know that we have very little sway over the UP and their decision to work with Corp to manage that rail yard. We have absolutely nothing to do with. And we do our best to work with the UP. We have similar experiences as you all do. They're hard, they're not exactly as easy. But that is something that's really not in our purview because we don't have any control over it all.
Right, but it's a class 3 that's running the yard. That's my concern.
I hear your concern. I have nothing to do with it. But it's certainly something that,
So would that be something that we would email Union Pacific about when we share that email address?
I think Union Pacific is aware that the community has concerns about that transition.
But we will make sure to share that online so we can all email that. Okay. Who's got that?
I have you in the queue.
We've got one online. What timeline will the 1.2 billion needed to conduct the project come in your estimation, and what are the potential sources of those funds?
So we cannot receive, the funds are public and private. We're looking at doing a RIF loan is what it's called, Railroad Infrastructure Financing Loan, that can be paid off over time to pay for the port section of the improvements. We're not eligible to get that until we have a record of decision from NEPA.
Permits.
Yes, the final permits have to be done. Of course, nobody wants to issue a loan like that until they're assured that the environmental impacts can be mitigated or accounted for.
Okay. And I'm going to follow up because it may come up.
Yeah.
This is a really important point because it hits in a number of different areas. Until there is a permit awarded, and I think you heard Melissa say at the beginning, all 3 components of this project are wedded together under one NEPA. So until we have that permit in hand and the environmental work is done and the state permits are in hand, nothing happens. The other thing that you may have read in the paper is that the state of Oregon provided this project $100 million of Q11 bonds in this last session in their bonding bill. That is for dredging. It can only be used on the channel modification project. And those bonds will not be sold until all of the permits are in hand. Everything has to happen first before the dominoes start to fall with construction. And I just think it's really important. There's a lot of due diligence that has to be done between now and then. Another fun fact, in 2007, when AP Moeller was looking to build a container terminal in Coos Bay, biggest port operator in the world at the time, Maersk, they spent a couple of years in Coos Bay doing exactly the same design work. And then the economy globally tanked and all of that changed. There was a bill passed in 2007 by Senator Verger and Representative Roblin at the time that committed $60 million to this channel deepening project. And that money sat there and sat there and sat there from 2007 until the last couple of years, when that money then was able to be accessed by the Port of Coos Bay for this project. So this has been going on quite some time, and I just want to make sure people understand nothing happens till permits are awarded, and there's a long way to get to a permit.
Okay, great. And we have Jennifer.
This is Lynn.
Okay, I think that the Coos Bay project is great for Coos Bay,
I don't think it's.
but I don't believe it's great for Eugene. If you're just starting the design right now, you need to design it around Eugene. We do not need it to go through Eugene. As the question number 6 was exactly what I was concerned about. There's too much disruption for us. For Train-Song, it's 4 line. They have enough problems over there. We don't need any more. And if you wanted to drive through there and see what sort of problems would be happening, that would be good too.
Do you have a question?
No, the question is there a way to have go around Eugene and maybe head for, I believe Millersburg is the next section that they could, I don't know.
I'm not, so the Coos Bay rail line ends in the Union Pacific Yard. After that, we have no purview about where it goes. It's up to the Union Pacific. So that would be another conversation with the Union Pacific to see if they could be convinced that going around is the best thing to do. I'm certain most of that conversation is out there, but I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer your question because I don't sit in the offices at the Union Pacific to see if they would be willing to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just interject briefly, I have a different perspective. It revolves around opportunity to our community in the form of living wage jobs, reducing our carbon footprint. And a piece that hasn't been referenced tonight is the possibility of designated City of Eugene a federal land port or a land port of entry, an LOPE. That would offer opportunities to partner more closely with the Department of Agriculture and the Food and Drug Administration, which would bring additional federal funding and resources to safely operate a modernized land port. And as I understand it, the Coos Bay terminal would be 100% electric. There are opportunities to do so with the land port in Eugene. A few factors in determining the designation of a federal land port include but aren't limited to the volume of commercial and non-commercial traffic, the volume of pedestrian traffic, security needs, state and national security needs, and then the impact on our local communities, including the economic impact and the livability. And I want to give credit where credit is due. It's the carpenters who have informed me about the designation of a federal land port. And I say this with Representative Hoyle's district director and Representative Hoyle's chief of staff in the room. The Congresswoman and our senior U.S. Senator have been among our state delegation and my boss, but the Congresswoman and our senior U.S. Senator have been stalwart champions for this project and stalwart champions for the economic investment, for working families, and for living wage jobs, and for reducing our carbon footprint. Think of all the trucks from Long Beach all the way up to Puget Sound, if there are shipments that are just sitting there for 4 or 5 days at a time, think of all the trucks that are A, waiting, or B, ultimately going to be on the road. The investment, $100 million investment that was alluded to, the additional $58 million in federal funds that Rep. Oil and Senator Wyden have championed, those will result in reducing our carbon footprint and moving freight more affordably and more efficiently, and they could very well bring real investments into our backyard in the form of living wage jobs and partnering more closely with our federal partners. That's my perspective at this juncture, and I'm happy to turn it over to the Carpenters if you want to add anything to that in regards to the amount of local jobs, perhaps.
Hi, Travis Simmons, lead representative.
Travis.
Thank you. You know, my perspective of the federal land port is going to create that national security.
Well, introduce yourself and
Yeah.
who you work for, please.
Travis Simmons, Travis Simmons, with the Carpenters, Western States Carpenters. And it is huge because this federal land port is going to provide security, that national security. It's also going to keep that illicit activity that, you know, we hear about at ports from happening because the federal government is going to be, you know, taking care of that port. Economic growth, because it's going to facilitate commerce. It's also going to bring the local economies back. We heard how we lost all those jobs in the local economy. You know, I remember in the 80s when the timber industry left, 80,000 jobs. Those are all living wage jobs that this port will create for these communities. And it's not just going to affect Eugene and Coos Bay, it's going to affect every community that touches that railway. So that's what it means to me. I mean, these are living wage jobs where people could retire with dignity and have medical insurance. A carpenter makes right around $100,000 a year. Those jobs don't happen every day.
All right.
So what does that have to do with the railroad just driving?
You're creating that land, that federal land port designation gives you that security because the federal government controls entry and exit. And that's what we're talking about.
So my understanding is that you're talking about the carpenters, you represent the Carpenters Union and you will be building that rail line, is that correct?
Yes, we're talking about the.
So and you will provide jobs to people that are carpenters that will build that rail line.
We are getting.
And we'll have 80,000 jobs?
That was how many were lost.
Oh, well, how many jobs will be provided?
I do believe in the slide, they said 2,000 construction jobs or 2,500.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's just to get you to Eugene.
Okay. Next we have Jack, and then, we have Ashley, who is, online in the queue. Oh, hi, Jack. Hi.
So,
Okay. Well, I'm just reading.
you were
My name is Will Phillips. I live in Whitaker, and I have a triplex on one side of the tracks and a bed and breakfast on the other side of the tracks. And the Van Buren crossing I go through all the time. I understand the reasons behind this project. I understand the jobs that could be brought in. I think there's a lot of potential there. I am concerned because I've got two businesses with the tracks going right between a block away from the noise. A University of Oregon landscape design professor Whitey Lewick, has already created a design called Trains to Trees that would bring the railroad not around Eugene, but underneath. The train would go underneath. There would be parks with trees over the top. He's already got a design of this. It's on his website. It is an alternative to a quiet zone. And because Union Pacific is concerned about safety, it would be incredibly safe because they're worried about running people over, and it's underground, that makes it safer. Is anyone considering putting the railroad underground? That's my question.
We don't have anyone here that represents the railroad. Unfortunately, I don't think we can answer.
Well, I'm thinking since this is such a large project, that it would be the time to do something bold that would incredibly change the nature of Eugene.
I love the idea. Thank you.
So I believe Ashley is next online. Is that right? Yeah, so Ashley, you have a question? Ashley, are you there? We can't hear you. You're on mute. You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, it is kind of hard to hear online with some of the background feedback, just to let folks know. For the benefit of the crowd, it seemed to be that like the Whitaker Community Council learned about this project through the community engagement plan that J-Law was working on behalf of the port. And one of the findings from that community engagement plan was to set up project advisory groups. Was wondering for the benefit of the crowd if information can be shared about those project advisory groups, what the current status is of that, and how will the Eugene and Whitaker community be involved and engaged in that process. And anything else that folks can share about the plans for ongoing community engagement.
Thanks for the question, Ashley. That's correct that the engagement plan that is being proposed for how engagement will occur as this project is formally underway was informed through conversations that we had with folks, including folks in this community. So, and folks in Coos Bay and many other places in the region that would be impacted by this project. That engagement plan has not been implemented yet. We're, and Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're waiting for the project. We are waiting for the grant agreements for the funding that was received by the federal government. Grant agreements need to be signed in order for funds to come in. So waiting for those to take place. That took quite a bit longer than I think any of us anticipated. So we've been waiting for those things to occur. That's happening now. We're also waiting for the design engineers to be under contract as part of those RFPs. And then we'll begin this process really more formally in terms of engaging the public with public meetings, formally creating those advisory groups that you mentioned, Ashley, having other listening and focus group sessions. There'll be a fairly robust engagement program that's been outlined. You can read more about that engagement plan online. It's available on the website that was linked to the presentation. So we are hoping to have a robust engagement program, have many conversations with folks in Whitaker and Eugene, including, to answer your question, Ashley, involving folks from this community on that advisory group as well. So we want to make sure that there are many outlets for folks to share their concerns and get questions answered through our engagement program.
Do you want to mention your fact sheets?
Oh yeah, and we did leave for the folks that are in this room, there are some printed fact sheets over on the table by the door on the way out. And for the folks that are online, all of that information is available on the project website as well.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a couple questions. One, will the CDRL train still be running between Eugene and Coos Bay while the facility is being built and the track is being renovated? And my other question is, you guys are talking about clean applications in Coos Bay. Is that, as far as I know, last I checked, road power is still diesel operated, or is it a lot of clean or green power? I guess must be referring to the yard engine. I'm curious if you guys will be using things or like energy, like between, like outside of the yard, you know what I'm saying? Like on the days of between here and Coos Bay. I don't know.
Yeah, just for part of that, I would just say, I've made the commitment to our current customers. We have 10 customers now, like they realize to continue to be able to serve them as we're doing the construction. That could be, very challenging logistically, but that is the commitment that we've made. And, I think when it comes to the terminal construction, one of the real exciting things about this project is the fact that it's new and that it's actually, we're able to utilize modern technology. So many of the ports have, in recent years, this is the first we haven't built a new port in the US in decades. And this is it'll be the first fully shipped to rail in the entire country that's predominantly, not fully 100%, but almost 100% shipped to rail. So there's a lot of really exciting parts of being able to build this thing from kind of scratch. And then as a result of that, we're able to use as green of technology as we have access to and do as modern as we possibly can. Because again, if you look at what's happening in the other ports in LA and San Francisco and Seattle, there is so much congestion there that they just have to build on top of each other. Where we have out in Coos Bay, we actually have kind of a blank slate there on that North Spit to be able to build on land that's designed specifically for this kind of project. So I think it'll be really innovative and it'll be state of the art and it'll be as green as we are able to utilize with the technologies that are out there.
So in the yard. Yeah.
In the terminal, the cranes and yeah.
But it's interesting if the trains coming through town are going to be at all clean energy.
That I do not know as far as the trains themselves. Again, it's, I think one thing we want to make sure too, I mean, we're here because we care. We've tried to get out early and be here. It's 5 years away from even when we kick it off, and we haven't kicked off that first step, but we really are doing our best to get out on the front end. The work that JLA did was the most expansive community engagement effort that the port's ever done in its history. They interviewed over 70 people in person. They went and met face to face, and we're really trying to do this from the ground up and to include the community as absolutely best we can. So we'll take all these questions. We're going to continue to engage. We also don't want this to seem like it's just kind of a one-off thing. We want to continue to be available, continue to be accessible. We really do send newsletters. We really are continuing to develop materials. And as we learn things, we will share and appreciate your partnership. And don't want this to be something where we're talking at you, but hopefully it's a collective understanding. We appreciate the partnerships that will continue to develop along the way.
Fantastic. All right, next we have him.
I've got a question.
Hi, this is an off question that has nothing to do with what's been presented today. I'm wondering if there has been any talk, or might there be any talk in relation to compensation? Okay, is there any talk of compensation for residents who live next to the tracks that will have extra trains going by? Even with quiet zones allowed? I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me? Okay. Is there any talk of compensation for residents who will be living near the tracks and also for those living near the sites that are being constructed?
I can't see you, but that's okay. I'm gonna just talk to this area in front of me. And we are still in the early stages of, thank you, we're still in the early stages of having conversations about community benefits agreements generally and what those look like in different communities. I do think as we move forward, that will obviously become more of a structured conversation. One of the things that I learned when I was an elected official is that you really have to engage people in those conversations as opposed to coming to people with your solutions. I always like to tell, one of the worst meetings I ever had was about 2 months into being a county commissioner when we had a mosquito outbreak in Bandon. And so we talked among ourselves and we figured out how we were going to solve it. And then we held a meeting down in Bandon to announce our solution. And we united the crowd of about 300 people in their hatred of us in a very short period of time. So that's really the reason why we want to be here tonight and start hearing these things and getting them down. So we can figure out where we need to focus our energies and really have those conversations. Thank you.
Okay, Travis, you got 1 minute and we're gonna try to, we have like 4 people up. And we have about 10 minutes to do it, so. Travis, you have the floor.
This is a question for JLA.
We can barely hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
A little bit better, yes.
Crank it up.
I don't know how to crank it up. This is a question for JLA. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Actually, not now. Did you have a question? We can't hear you right now.
Go ahead, Travis.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Travis,
Okay,
the
I got a
is
question for JLA. I'm a little concerned about the initial outreach. I'm glad it's just the beginning of the project. Are you guys planning on doing a little more thorough and pinpointed outreach to the real stakeholders? It seems to me like you didn't reach out to Lindsay Leach. Last I talked to her in the fall, early spring this year, she hadn't really heard anything about the project. And I don't believe the city manager was included. It looks like you included a lot of different cities, but you didn't include the city of Eugene. City of Eugene has $10 million in a bank account for our quiet zone. So I believe they are an important stakeholder. And I just want to hear your commitment to working with our entire council so they're all up to date on this project.
Great question, Travis.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We did engage some, including the neighborhood association here, Whitaker and Active Bethel. We did engage one of the city councilors at that time. This was in October-ish of last year, maybe a little earlier than October. And we had a short period to be able to conduct that engagement. We talked to some Lane County commissioner as well, and a couple other staff. But we'll be sure to engage folks at the city of Eugene moving forward. As I mentioned, we'll have a very robust engagement program as this project formally gets underway. This was just an initial engagement to have some community conversations, really to inform our engagement program and really understand the community concerns, ideas, opportunities that might exist. It was sort of a snapshot, if you will, to really understand, what folks were thinking about with regards to this project and how they might best engage people moving forward. And
Okay,
of course,
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
We're a manager and council run city, so that please include the manager and council. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
We've got one from online. What jobs specifically are we talking about here in Eugene? And what ancillary jobs? What is considered a living wage?
I'm going to step back. When this partnership formed, it's been almost 5 years, 4.5 years now. Union agreements were signed at the very, very beginning because the project is committed to using union labor. So those project agreements have been on the books for a long time. And I would defer to my friends from the Carpenters Union to talk about what a living wage job is. They can probably in this area talk about what that looks like better than I can.
Okay, we're short on time.
Yeah, okay. And I want two other really quick things. If you look at what the projected employment is right now, and this is before all the engineering and design is done, so take it with a grain of salt. But right now we're looking at about 2/3 of the jobs being up in this Willamette Valley area, which is going to be probably 5,000 or 6,000 jobs. And there'll be a couple thousand in Coos Bay. So the majority will be up in this neck of the woods. Define how you want to define it. But on the project union jobs, there will be secondary and tertiary jobs that come with that because other businesses will follow.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have Lindsay.
Hi, my name is Lindsay, and I'm at 30 Monroe. And my question is more about currently what's going on with our quality of life with the train. And wondering if there's anything we're doing or can be doing about the train conductors who are overtuning their horns. I can't believe it took to me to get to this question in all honesty, because that's what's going on right now.
Thank you, Lindsay. What I can say to that is that the trains have to legally honk their horn if there's any kind of safety concerns. So if there's people near the tracks, if there's anything going on. So they have to honk their horns when they honk their horns. We are.
I said over to you. I live right there. I also have compassion for them because I do see when there's people on that track. I've helped get people off that track. I absolutely know, I know the train numbers and the times that they are abusing it.
Yes.
And this is why we want our safety crossings to be upgraded for the quiet zone, because they will help us reduce that noise. And again, these are things to continue to contact Union Pacific for, because
Right, we'll
we
share
don't
that
have the
email.
ability to do that.
Yeah, so we can all email Union Pacific and ask them why they're honking that horn. Yeah, there is another time. Okay, Kathy?
You talked specifically about the.
Into the mic.
Like
this.
Talked specifically about jobs coming to Eugene and the Willamette Valley, but I don't see high-paying jobs being created by this project other than in the initial construction phase. You're asking a lot for ancillary cities like Eugene who won't won't experience any of the benefits that Coos Bay will. It's a huge boon. I support it entirely, but I don't see what Eugene has, what we're going to get in return for this enormous amount of quality with double-decker trains coming through this city all day and all night. And there's not a specific answer, rather than some of this dance one. You don't know, say I don't know, but I don't know what high-paying jobs you're talking about.
I can talk, during the construction phase, that will primarily be in Coos Bay while the terminal is being built and the channel is being dredged. The 3 years it will take to rehabilitate and rebuild this rail line will provide jobs for 3 years. Once more trains are moving through, there will be other opportunities for manufacturing to come. I can't tell you what it's going to look like. I can't tell you exactly what they are.
You said 1/3 after initial construction, your statement was 1/3 2/3 for the Willamette Valley. So if you know that, how would you not know what kind of jobs would be created in Eugene to offset this tremendous amount of trouble?
We will.
Living wage.
Living wage jobs.
What I am, and I'm not going to say what I envision, what I am hearing is likely will happen is it will draw warehousing. It will draw other opportunities for things to happen because of the increased activity in the movement of goods. When
Keep it short, Margaret, just make sure it's 3 more.
You want me to be quiet? Okay.
I know.
That's.
Janet?
Thank you. Let's go from micro to macro. The whole intent, I saw one of those screens that we.
Can we start this?
Not too close to your mouth. Oh, okay. Micro to macro. I saw that one of the key goals was to shorten the route for Asian markets. The gorilla in the room is we're at a 37 trillion deficit. Rather than receiving Asian ships in, I'd like to see us exporting rather than importing to raise our gross national product. That is the big gorilla in the room, and I don't like building a port for Asian markets to beat the pop out of us as they have been. My question is, will you factor that in as a priority in your planning? Thank you.
One of the things that will make this project successful is having those containers full of cargo going both ways. That's how that works. So if, just like trucking, you don't want to backhaul with an empty truck. So we've had a lot of conversations around, I think I mentioned it earlier, agricultural products, things manufactured in the United States that are going to Asian countries. So that is a part of the calculation of putting this project together. That yes, will Asian goods come in as long as you are all buying things that are requested and needed and wanted in this country? Yeah, but we also want to make sure that we are selling our goods to Asia as well.
Hard numbers, please.
I can't answer that in a hard number because, as you said on the one slide, we haven't even started yet.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so it's going to be a little while before all that gets done.
Mr. Keating, if you could.
Thank you. I mean, I would just say we're the 8th most trade dependent state in the entire country, and 84% of those are actually exported from Oregon by small businesses. So there is absolutely already an economy going, and the model doesn't work unless we have stuff going out. So
Right, and we actually already covered this, talking about weeds or talking about grain and hay and all of that. And it's a great question. Thank you very much.
Very good question.
Jen?
So my concern is obviously with the impact to my neighborhood. But, you know, in 1998, DEQ, instead of declaring the port a Superfund site, cleaned up 3 abandonment Superfund sites. Port was abandoned. How are you all going to make promises that you are not going to abandon this project? Particularly in light of reciprocal tariffs and the potential decrease in need for incoming shipping and outgoing shipping based on the current climate. How are we going to not end up with another beach whale?
Great question.
Whale killer.
Great question. Come on, Candy.
I'm thinking. So there's a long way to go before this project gets real, as you saw on the slide. We haven't even begun yet. There's a lot of economics that are going to go into this. There's a lot of study. There's a lot of number crunching. There's a lot of engineering and design work. Once we get through that engineering and design work and start getting through that permitting, if this project isn't viable, it won't happen. Everything has to line up. And if the business case isn't there, this doesn't happen. And I can't, I heard that we had a whale that blew up around Lincoln City one time.
Yes, that's what
It's project doing that. But we have a long way to go before it actually is under construction and real, and there's a lot of things that have to be proven between now and then.
I guess I would just say again that like sometimes when we're talking about these job creations, to echo some of the sentiment in the room earlier, that if we don't have the numbers to talk about what those are, particularly outside of the actual corporate project, to just be mindful of that, like, and that it don't just hold the line of there's going to be these jobs, like continue to do that economic analysis. But
yeah, and that's the economic analysis that we have at this point in time at this preliminary stage. So there'll be a lot more coming between now and the next 3 years, or the next 2 or 3 years, when those NEPA permits and the EISs are taken care of, and the business case has to be made.
Yeah.
Or these things won't happen. So,
and you need someone sitting at the desk at the USDA to review those NEPA permits.
Oh, yeah, and a whole bunch of other agencies. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to break my own rule and we're going to just go over just a couple of minutes. I have 2 questions. My first question is that I've heard that it's a possibility. Any map that you've shown, anything that I've read shows that the end of the rail is in the Whitaker. Is that correct? The end of this project is the Whitaker. And then from the Whitaker out is where the trains go north, they go south, they go east. What I would like to know, is it a possibility that they are going to create a larger rail yard I mean, you guys have to have an idea about that. Somewhere where they unload the containers and stack them on trains that are going elsewhere. Is it a possibility that they're gonna build a rail yard in Eugene? And that big empty space back there that Southern Pacific owns?
Oh, yeah, so.
I have no
Well,
idea.
there's a large space behind Ninkasi.
If they have that plan, they haven't shared it with us.
Okay, so so you don't know anything about, and you guys mentioned earlier about a mid-Willamette yard or something? That's Millersburg, so that's not Eugene.
I don't know if you're familiar with what happened in Millersburg, but there is a transload reload facility that was built on the rail line just north of Albany in Millersburg, and it is not been used. It was built and it hasn't been used.
Right.
So of course there is interest in that.
Okay, great.
Because it's a place where transload could happen. We don't own it. We don't have purview over it. It's there, so it is part of a conversation. And I'll.
So you haven't gotten that far in the process yet, Ben? Is that what you're telling me? Because all the maps show Whitaker being the end.
And Matt, the Coos Bay rail line ends at the UP yard.
Right, I get that, but all the maps that he showed today,
Yeah.
they all end up in the Whitaker. Everything. It all ends up here, and then you show the map. This is Union Pacific, this is Coast, the Coast Railroad. I just want to know if it's a possibility.
No idea.
Okay, great. And then I have one more question, and I know everyone in the room, actually, we have a gentleman here who is a carpenter who actually is working on the chamber bridge. Oh my God. So I'm going to just take a moment. I did a little bit of research while we were chatting. And I just have a couple of questions for him. I'm not currently working on it, but he's aware of it. And we would like to know, it's supposed to be raised from what we understand. They haven't done anything. Are we waiting for the railroad to complete it? What are we waiting for? Yeah. What's going on there?
All I know is there's some scheduling conflicts between the build and the rent. They're trying to work out a schedule, do a bunch of the work during the night over the rail, and that's been an issue with the rail. Outside of that, I haven't heard of any updates, but I can definitely get back and be to see that.
Margaret?
So, Margaret, I don't know.
Okay, please.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Yes, because we've been waiting forever.
Okay, just to be clear, you're talking about the existing.
We're talking about where you can only go one way over Chambers Bridge.
So we get, sometimes I have a hard time hearing if there's a lot of.
Yeah, can we? Thank you.
Okay, I'm happy to speak about the Chambers Bridge. So actually, I'm the principal engineer for that project. And yes, we are currently delayed. We've had a number of stop work orders for a whole bunch of reasons. Currently, we are working on railroad permits, surprise, surprise, which actually relates to the previous conversation of Union Pacific with now a new leasing through G&W. So right now we are trying to work with G&W to determine, do we need additional permits through them or not? Because our perspective is that the original permit through Union Pacific should still be valid when a new lease comes into play. For example, if you're a landlord, those, like the rights would transfer from your new lease. But we are trying to be partners with G&W to say, hey, let's get clarity on what's needed so we can actually get the work done. We had one of our weekly meetings just earlier this week talking about the progress and the potential schedule, because one of the challenges is looking ahead is we know that the best construction weather of the year is actually behind us at that biggest point.
Right.
So we're starting to have conversations of what does it look like from here. So really the critical path right now is deciding on trying to get an idea of, are we going to get the permits or determination on the permits? Is it 2 weeks or 6 months? And our path forward varies drastically depending on that answer. For example, if we're able to get clarity from G&W in the next couple of weeks, then we will have a window where we will continue work through the winter. But if it's determined that we need a new permit to G&W that potentially we won't get for months, there's probably a scenario where we mostly shut the site down for the winter, restore some of the use of the bridge until the better weather in the spring. So really, until we know what the timeline of the permit will be, it's really hard for us to determine what the schedule is. But we do know that overall, once the project actually starts, that we're still in like the 6-month timeframe for the actual work. One of the positives is that currently the work that's been done to the bridge is not terribly destructive. There's been only a little bit of destructive work on one of the end panels. So if we needed to reopen the bridge, we could in a fairly short amount of time. What we don't want to do is get in a place where the work is half done, for example, and then we can't reasonably reopen the bridge. So we're having a lot of conversations with the prime contractors saying, hey, how can we make this work? Because obviously they're a business and they want to be able to do the work safely and efficiently. So we're still working on that. So really that determination from G&W on whether we need an additional permit or not is really the linchpin of what keeps us going or stops us for right now.
Fantastic. And can you please share those updates with me so I can share them with my community?
Yeah.
You have my email.
I would do that.
All right, fantastic. So I want to thank everybody, thank all of our guests for coming today. Everyone for their questions. It's been fantastic. Please, what steps to take next? Attend the WCC Public Health and Safety Committee meeting if you want to know what's happening with this. Follow us on Facebook. Look on our website. Sign up for their emails. Contact your local representative regarding your stance on the issue. And I would like to see a committee formed amongst every neighborhood association where we all have one person to keep up on this because it's going to affect the whole town. So thank you very much.
I didn't bring any. I did too. I didn't bring mine.
But, you know, 5,000 or.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.